Hey guys, what's up, man? 45 here, coming back to you with a bit of a longer list. And it's actually not top 20 unlike I mentioned in the actors video. It's top 15 TV shows. So not be around the dead bush. Let's get into it. At number 15 is SNL. If I need to laugh at a current situation that is going on in the world, I watch this show. This shit, excuse my language, the skits in this show are so funny. Like, genuinely, especially for the actors that have been there for several seasons, like multiple seasons, like, Kenan Thompson and Cecily Strong, like, they know what they're doing, which means that they're really, really funny. And also, all the new people that they manage to get are always just as funny. I don't know how this show does it, but it's so funny. And it's also so relatable because it, just completely mocks everything that's actually happening in the world. And number 14 is Chopped. Now, I would not seem like the type of person to like cooking shows particularly much, but this show I do. I like a couple other cooking shows, but they aren't good enough to make it on the list. Because I was being very extremely harsh about what I put on this list, because it was extremely hard to make, by the way. Anyway, Chopped, for those who don't know, though I'm sure there are people who do, it's a very popular, it's probably one of the most popular shows on Food Network, if not the most popular, I would argue. I don't know, maybe like Iron Chef and Cutthroat Kitchen kind of lead the way in it. I don't know. I'm rambling. Chopped is a show where there's 3 rounds: appetizer, entree, and dessert. They have a certain amount of time to cook the food, and it's completely random ingredients. Well, they don't really follow a theme for the episode. So, for instance, if it's I don't know, Caribbean themed or Jamaican themed, there'd be a lot of those types of foods, basically. Sorry about that, just doing something with my neck. And basically, whoever loses, their dishes on the chopping block, and they've been chopped. Which I love that the name is incorporated into the actual show. I love it when that happens. But I really think it's such a high tension cooking show, and in most cases there's one person that you want to root for and want to win. Yeah. It's a really good show. I really like it. Another type of show that I don't seem like I would like, but I actually really, really enjoy, or I used to enjoy, I'm not so much into them now, but I used to be obsessed with, is house shows. That's kind of a broad description because I could be talking about touring, renovations. I liked everything pretty much. Nowadays, I don't really like one renovation show, and that's Fixer Upper, but that's not what's on this list. The first house show that I ever watched and really made me fall in love with the genre is Extreme Homes. It's a pretty popular one, but they didn't make many episodes of it, not to my knowledge anyway. There aren't that many on Hulu, which is where I watched it. There's only 4. Why? Anyway, I just love the way that they tour the huge mansions and the creative houses, which are still even really nice houses. I love that stuff. Put me in front of a TV watching that stuff, I'll probably be really interested for hours. which is the main reason why I like this show in particular, and why it's my favorite house show. But believe me, that took a lot of debate, because I've watched maybe around 2 dozen house shows. I don't know the exact number, maybe not that much, definitely well over a dozen. And number 12 is Jeopardy, my favorite game show. In fact, like, besides a little bit of Wheel of Fortune, really the only game show that I watch. And if you don't know, well, I get this. There's some people that don't watch Jeopardy because they don't like it. But if you haven't heard of Jeopardy before, then you just go watch it. Like, I don't know what human being has not at least heard of Jeopardy before, or like recognizes the da na 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 as the Jeopardy theme song. Like, if you have not heard of Jeopardy at least, then I would not classify you as a human being. I don't think I really have to excuse me, explain Jeopardy to whoever the heck watches these videos, but it's Jeopardy. Like, everyone knows it. I'm not going to go any further than that. Star Wars Rebels is number 11, and I talked about this show a lot more in depth in the video where I ranked every Star Wars movie and TV show. And in specifically, I talked about Thrawn in my top 10 best movie and TV villains video. So if you're curious about a lot of my thoughts on the show, then go watch that video. I will cover some characters here that I didn't in that video. And those main two characters are Ahsoka and Rex. Now, first off, I think that the decision to include these characters again was absolutely genius, and it just proves to me, like, Dave Filoni understands Star Wars. Like, he truly understands it, and he does such a good job directing it. But I really love, like, Ahsoka's kind of views on this as kind of this wise force-using figure that's not a Jedi. It provides a really, really unique perspective to the show, and it's one reason in particular why I really like the relationship, not so much between her and Ezra, but between her and Kanan in particular, because just something about, like, how Ahsoka's views end up influencing Kanan while he still believes in the Jedi or whatever. Like, he's kind of given up the Jedi and doesn't follow the Force and its ideals that actively anymore. And I think that's such a cool representation of, like, what happened to Ahsoka and how she kind of fell out with the Order and whatever. And I just think that's really interesting, honestly. But even then, she still has her completely badass action moments. And also, I really like the way that they designed Ahsoka for the show. Same thing with Rex. Like, in some ways, I'm not a fan of the way that they design the characters, but Ahsoka and Rex are definitely examples of where I approve of the new redesigns of those characters. Another character is Rex. Now, Rex really brings this definite jaded view of the Clone Wars versus, like, the Empire trying to stomp out the Rebels. And it's really, really, and it actually leads to a lot of funny dialogue when he's, like, comparing the clone trooper like armor and like battle formations, even to that of like clone troopers, and like how the armor is superior, and like how when like the Imperial officers are talking, they're like, "You're a clone, aren't you?" Again, sorry for my terrible British accent. I'm not very good at it. I can do Australian, mate, but I can't do British for craps. Anyway, random accent bit out of the way. Yeah, sorry for my terrible British accents, but you're a clone, aren't you? And Rick would be like, "Well, yes, I am." And sorry for the terrible British accents, but just in general, I really love the way they design Rex's character, and especially when it comes to him and Kanan's relationship, because they kind of start out as these like, I won't say rivals because that really doesn't fit the theme of the show, but kind of like um companions who argue a lot. That's a good way to put it. And eventually they kind of grow a bond for they kind of get used to each other's differences, even if they still annoy each other through various points of the show, and they eventually become friends. And it's a really sweet relationship to see develop. But the best, of course, is his relationship with Ahsoka, because of the way that it builds off the Clone Wars, honestly. At number 10 is Big Bang Theory. Now, Big Bang Theory is such a funny show. Though I do think it went on for way too long. Like, I think 12 seasons was way too long. I think it honestly could have stopped at like maybe 8 or 9 seasons. Like, I don't know, maybe after like the 10th season, it does kind of get better near the end of the 12th season, but that's just because like ending stuff or whatever. My favorite character is probably Leonard. I don't know, I really like his consistency and humor throughout the show, and especially because he has such great chemistry with other characters that I also really like Howard, Raj, and Bert. Um, in the first couple seasons, Sheldon is my favorite just because he has definitely the best dialogue. And the scene in the ball pit is like one of my favorites in any TV show ever. Like, I cannot emphasize how much I laugh at that scene every time I watch it. And I've watched the whole show twice, so if that gives you any indication. But then, like, after, I don't know, around season 5 or 6, Sheldon still has a few funny lines, but he just becomes a complete jerk. To the point where he's not really enjoyable to watch, and I think that's one of the things that really drags the show down the later seasons, even though Amy is really there to balance him as a character, which I do like, admittedly. And number 9 is The Office. Now, people like never believe me when I say this, but I genuinely binged this entire show within a week. I really was enjoying myself that much when I watched it. Now, granted, there were definitely some problems I had with this show, such as, at certain points, like Michael's character, so just moving my mouse out of the way, it's kind of blocking my face. I mean, you can't see that, but whatever. Anyway, Michael's character is like the most good things I have and bad things I have about this character, like, in a single show. Like, for one thing, he just absolutely has some of the most ridiculous scenes and lines and funniest lines in the whole show. But at the same time, he is so frustratingly interrupting and distracting and egotistical, and yeah, just the thing with Michael's character is he has a lot of good qualities, but also a lot of bad qualities, which really drag the show down. And it really made it frustrating to watch just because of Michael's character being the way that it was sometimes. And that's really one of the reasons that it's not higher on this list, but to be honest, I think the good outweighs the bad here, and that's really the only bad thing I can say about the show. Because Jim, Dwight, Pam, Kevin, they're all such enjoyable characters to watch. And even like the okay characters, I would say, like Stanley and Toby, Andy later on in the show. Like, they're all really, really funny. Like, Steve Carell does such an amazing job as Michael. And I honestly think this show is just the right length. Like, compared to, unlike Big Bang Theory, I felt like it had enough, like, plot and content to continue just moving through all 10 seasons versus Big Bang Theory, which really just kind of stopped being interesting at a certain point. This managed to honestly maintain my interest throughout the entire show, which is another big plus I can give it. I also really like the way that it's filmed. That's about all I have to say for that. At number 8 is The Simpsons. Now, people also don't believe me when I say I binged this whole show in about a month and a half. But I did. And I definitely can, like, confirm, affirmatively say that I like the modern seasons a lot more than the kind of retro Simpsons. I don't know. I just think the modern Simpsons stuff is a lot more funnier. And oftentimes in a lot of those earlier seasons, now granted, there were for sure some highlights, like the episode in season 9 where Homer becomes the trash person, and the Who Shot Mr. Burns episodes. Those are definite highlights as well. But like there are definitely also some complete slogger seasons. Like maybe between seasons 3 and 6, and then like 16 to 19, those sets of seasons in particular were such slogs, and it felt like they took forever to get through. But like then every once in a while, like there will be a season that pops up that's just like really really funny. And I don't know. I just there were some slugger episodes in the more modern ones, but as a whole, I really feel like the Simpsons writers definitely stepped up their comedic humor with the modern season, which by the way is like halfway through season 20 and onward is when the animation improves. That's what I call the modern episodes. And then, like anything before that, I call the old Simpsons animations. Except for like seasons, I don't know, I guess 18 to that point, I call it the transition seasons, I would guess. But of course, the animation slowly got better as the show progressed. But you really just see a change in that, like retro versus modern Simpsons. My favorite character, and believe me, this is really hard to pick because there are so many absolutely hilarious characters in this show you would not believe. But I'm gonna have to say, like, my favorite has always been Grandpa Simpson. Like, I just love his ridiculous dialogue, and I love his and just completely nonsensical stories that he comes up with, and just the nap joke as well, and the fact that he needs to be taken everywhere, and like especially the hearing aids episode, like that was just like pure Grandpa Simpson fun for me. And this show also has a lot of really good character development. Of course, I mean, it has to because it's like the longest running TV show in history, so it's bound to have. Certainly. And number 7 is a show that I have, at least on this channel, not expressed my love, my open love for this show for yet, and that is Stranger Things. Um, I originally, like when this show first came out, I did not think I would like it, and therefore I didn't watch it. Um, and um, I was finally convinced to watch it by my sister, who is a big Stranger Things fan, and also my dad. Both of them are big Stranger Things fans. Um, but I finally watched it, and I'll admit I was still a bit of a skeptic when I watched it, but from the end of the first episode, my thoughts went from skeptical, not sure if I'm gonna like it, to I am so intrigued by this plot I have to watch more. And I don't think that's ever happened with another TV show besides Stranger Things for me. And if I'm thinking about this correctly, I think I binged this show in like 3 or 4 days, I'm pretty sure. Because what people don't realize about me is when I binge a show, I binge it hard. Like, very, very hard. Also, it was quarantine, or it was like September, I think, when I first watched this show. I have since watched it again. However, the biggest fault I think with this show, and I honestly think this is the reason that it's not higher on this list, is because and this is just my personal opinion, but I really think that it's a show that would get really tiring. Because I love to rewatch shows more than once. I'm just that kind of person that can rewatch things without getting tired of them most of the time. But this is a kind of show that I feel like after watching it maybe 2 or 3 times, I really think it loses its charm. But that still doesn't take away from what an utterly fantastic show it is. Because, for one, I really have to applaud the amount of world building and setting that they managed to do, because the fact that they managed to set this in the 70s and 80s like they did is so like convincing. Like it's really honestly some of the most convincing setting for a TV show I've ever seen. So I have to give them props for that. But also the plot that they come up with every single season continues to make me just captivated, like beyond belief. For those curious, my favorite characters are definitely Elle and Hopper. Um, and I'll use this to segue into characters. Elle, because just the way that the show follows her progression as a character from being this person that doesn't talk at all to being this complete badass character with all these awesome powers, who has a lot of friends and a boyfriend and all that stuff. And believe me, like the teenager stuff, it might seem like I'm the complete opposite to like that stuff, but I love it. I really do love like that, like the relationships that all the bonds the characters have, and like all the dialogue happens between Mike and Elle, and then her friendship with Dustin and Lucas and all that. I love it. I love it a lot. Um, and like it really in a way that I didn't think I would like very much. Um, Hopper, I think, is one of my favorite characters because I love characters who kind of bring this jaded adult role. And Hopper is definitely that type of character in this show. And especially as season 2 progresses, you really, really do see how much he cares about Elle and their relationship, and just kind of like the conflicts between them is really, really profound. Um, and in season 3, it gets really funny because you really see kind of that awkward dad scenario of like the girlfriend and boyfriend and like having the teenage friend and that type of character. Like I'm not like a dad yet, but that type of character is so relatable. Um, like just the way they did it, it made Hopper's character and that's not to say that he doesn't have this profound one, because by God he does. Like he has really, really he has his sacrifice in the last episode is honestly one of the best moments in the show. And especially the way that Elle reacts to it afterward, like that final episode, like I remember staying up till like almost midnight just to finish it. It just absolutely blew me away. I thought that final episode was so good. And honestly, if I were to rank the seasons, I would say 2, 3, 1. Um, 2 just because being the best, just because not saying that 1 is bad. Like the Demogorgon is such a cool idea, especially because I love that it's based off D&D. I think that's another very nice touch, is the fact that a lot of the things in the show are based off D&D stuff, which I just think that's cool, because like it kind of activates the giant nerd side of me in a way, which also makes me like the show even more, actually. But so yeah, I really but like the magnitude that they went to in season 2, like between the Pollywog intrigue and then the demi dogs and then like the thing with Will and like the oh god, I don't remember what the thing is called, the nightmare thing. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but just the way that it's set up in season 2 and carried over to season 3 is really, really good stuff. Especially and going back to the setting here and like the camera shots and technicality of the show, like the is it oh yeah, the Upside Down, that's what it's called. But just the way that they portrayed the Upside Down was done so expertly. Because the shots of it just made it seem like so creepy and ominous. And that's yet another plus I have to give the show. But the final thing I'll touch on before I move on to the 6 other TV shows that are still in this list, I really have to applaud the action and the choreography, because this show, it has so much amazing action between Elle's powers and like the chase scenes that are really, really tense in all of the seasons, really. But also the special effects look amazing for this show. Like, the graphical design is incredible. So yeah, I love Stranger Things, even if it's not something I've talked about a lot on this channel. I love Stranger Things a lot. And number 6 is The Mandalorian. Now, some of you I talked about this show a lot when I was ranking every movie and TV show, but I'm going to touch on a few more points here, because what I talked about in that video, I believe, was mostly character related. So I'm going to touch on a few more things here, such as like the layout of the episode and whatever, and kind of the main thing I'm going to touch here is the world building, the setting, and the structure, along with like the action, special effects, whatever. So firstly, I really have to applaud the structure of this show, because I really think the way that they chose to pace out each episode was very, very well done. And the cliffhangers are, excuse me, by the way, for that fart. But just the way that they're formatted, and I think that they're such well-structured types of episodes that it really makes it really captivating to watch, especially when we have to wait episode by episode for it. It made it extremely intense, just because of like the sheer amount of tension surrounding like what thing is going to happen next and whatever. And the cliffhangers are so well made. But also, there's 2 main types of episodes. There's ones that contribute to the main plot, and the other ones that I'll just call side quest episodes for simplicity's sake. However, and this is something I don't think many people realized about season 1, but like a lot of things in the in season 1, in those side quest episodes, were actually used to set up critical points of story in season 2. So I definitely think the weakest episode of these is episode 10. And that's not to say it's bad, but just in terms of the side quest episodes, I think it was my least favorite. I just didn't really kind of enjoy what I was watching with that format of it that much. Versus the other side quest episodes, which are really captivating. Like, one of them, you have a prison breakout with an unlikely alliance of these people that Mando has some history with, and the dialogue is kind of explored there, but also just enough to where it's not too revealing, but also it creates a level of suspense. But again, it's also not too revealing to where it's just a blatant explanation. Another episode is the first episode of season 2, where it talks about how it's like him, and then the I don't know what the name of the character is that originally has the Boba Fett armor on Tatooine. I forget his name. It's not actually Boba Fett, but I really do think that the way that they um like the way that they structured that episode is really unique because like they drove the Sand People and the other townspeople to all kill the Krayt Dragon and celebrate whatever. And in the end, Mando gets what he wants, so it's like satisfactory plot wise. So like, and it's also the longest episode, like the 20 minutes longer than any of the other episodes in the series, which I really appreciated. I really liked that detail. And also, in particular, the reason why season 2, episode 7, or chapter 15, yeah, chapter 15 is what it is. Chapter 15 is one of my favorites, is because a lot of the elements in season 1 are side quest episodes that which I love. By the way, the thing I love about the side quest episodes is how they really kind of flesh out some of the different planets in the galaxy, and it really kind of fleshes out the world building, which I think is honestly one of the biggest pluses that I can give The Mandalorian, is just how expertly crafted the world is. And in particular, because these side quest episodes really help elevate the world building, which is why I like them just as much as the episodes that actually advance the main story. Um, and the reason that chapter 15 is another one of my favorites is because it is a critical episode when you're talking about advancing the plot, but it also harkens back to the same style of side quest episode, which I really, really appreciate, and it ends in a very satisfying way, with a payoff to Bill Burr's character to Mix Mayfeld in the show, which is another reason I really like it. Moving on to action, special effects, like, I don't even really think I need to touch more there. I may have covered it in the other video, but it's really good. Not much else really to be said. I really wanted to touch on the structure and the world building in case I didn't before. At number 5 is the Pink Panther. This is besides the Clone Wars, which is number 3 on this list, spoilers, but this is my favorite cartoon. Like, just what can be traditionally called a cartoon, this is my favorite. I've watched this from, like, I first watched this when I was like 6, I think. And I honestly just have so much nostalgia for this show, and I remember a lot of the episodes, and I think it's so funny. Just like, there's so many absolutely hilarious episodes in this show, and it really makes so much fun to watch. At number 4 is another show that I thought I would like, but I didn't think I would like that this much. And another show like Stranger Things, I have not talked about how much I like this show enough on this channel. And yet, an example of where I knew I would like it to some degree, but it just blew me away type show, and that is Cobra Kai. Now, for those who I mentioned this in one of my videos, but I take karate. I'm a deputy black belt, so I thought I would like this show because, by premise, it is a karate show. By the way, I do like the Karate Kid. I've only seen the first movie, but I do really like it. And I'd seen it like once before, and so I kind of figured like I'm kind of familiar with the characters, kind of not. I was mostly going in completely new to the show, which I think was honestly a better viewing experience for me, personally, because that's just the way I view shows better, maybe. Um, but this show just it did so much right. Um, I really have to for one, I really like the setting and the world building that they make is not really is much less of a major focus in this show versus characters like the Mandalorian and Stranger Things and Rebels and whatnot. But it's there, and same thing with the setting. Of course, the main thing that I really have to talk about, and that's going to take another bulk of this review of this video, is the characters and the character relationships, because there's a lot of characters in this show, and they managed to handle every single character with so much care that even the minor characters honestly felt important. Um where do I want to start? I'll start with the adults since there's a little less of them present within the show, so I'll make them a little easier to talk about. So I'll start with Daniel Russo. So, well, actually, I'll go with the plot first, before the characters. Um, the plot, I think it does a really, really good job of actually explaining through basic flashback scenes, kind of what happened. So, like, for people like me who didn't really remember the Karate Kid that well, they were able to understand the basic premise of the show. Um, I'm gonna pause this recording real quick and get some water. Excuse me. Okay, I'm back. I got some water and some bagels. So if you see me snacking on those, then don't be surprised. So, as I was saying before, the thing I really admire about the plot of the show is, for one, how they managed to catch people up like me who didn't watch the original Karate Kid, but like they do enough of that to basically make it so that you're not completely clueless about it. Um, and also just the especially as it gets into season 3, where there's this clear separation of what Johnny thinks it and Kreese thinks of Miyagi-Do, or not Miyagi-Do, what am I saying, of Cobra Kai, which I think is really, really interesting, and I'll get to characters in just a moment, but of course, in the first season, you have the classic standoff between Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai reignited, and then the same thing in season 2, but in season 3, we kind of see this Eagle Fang karate pop up, but not until like I'm not about halfway through the season. Until then, it's primarily Kreese's Cobra Kai and a little bit of Miyagi-Do. Again, I'll get to this a lot into this a lot more and talk about characters. So, starting with Daniel LaRusso, I think that he's an interesting character just because, well, for one, he's a businessman, which I think kind of influences the way he thinks, but also, he tries so hard to like satisfy his wife and his kids, and then still kind of have time for karate, and then still had his job, which I think is really admirable, honestly. Um, and just like personally speaking here, I mean, to be honest, he hasn't received that much character development aside from his relationship with Johnny. Because and I'll get to, and Johnny's gonna be the next character I talk about, but um Johnny, or sorry, Daniel is this character that excuse me, but Daniel is really like the Daniel and Johnny's relationship is really one of the most intriguing relationships in the show, because they start out being like old enemies, like pretty bitter rivals between the two competing dojos in the first two seasons. And then as the seasons progress, and like in season 2, when Kreese is doing some more wilder things to kind of like break Johnny, to kind of shut Johnny out of Cobra Kai. Then you really see that like Johnny's like, this is not supposed to happen. This is not my vision of Cobra Kai, and Daniel seems to accept that, and he's like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? He's like, that's not me, and it's like, he must be, and he's like defending Kreese, which is another interesting on that. But then they come to a truce, which is another big thing in the relationship. And then of course there's Robbie, which is like probably my favorite, one of my favorites. And I think it's pretty significant, especially considering they used to be former rival. And of course, there's a thing in the first season where they start teaching together, like at the very, very end, like when they team up, which I also think is really interesting. But you also kind of see at the same time, especially in season 3, with that scene where they're kind of like fighting together in like the repair house or whatever. You see them, how they go really well off each other, but also how their kind of classic traits are pointed out. Like Johnny, or Daniel points out Johnny's arrogance to the situation, and especially with the way that they're both like try to be there for Robbie. And Miguel's, well, I'll get to Miguel later, but just their relationship has such an interesting dynamic as they go from being bitter rivals to co-teachers, which I think is really interesting. And you kind of see that with a lot of different characters, because there's kind of this like distinctive split almost between a character who is Miyagi-Do and a character who is Cobra Kai, and they were traditionally best friends. And I think that's the case, because you see that with Dimitri and Hawk, and Chris, and oh gosh, what the heck is that guy with the brown guy's name? And even the two little guys, like even though that's like the most insignificant relationship in the whole show, I think the two little guys are just so funny, especially in that final scene at the end of season, in that final like in battle at the end of season 2, just to see those two tiny dudes just going at it, and then like the security guard just picks one of them up and then keep trying to go at you. I always laugh at that a lot. um, and then you see it again with like I'm trying to think of some characters. Oh well, I mean you do kind of see that just in a kind of a different way. Like wow, Miguel and Sam are dating, and then you see like the how Daniel is very much like pushing Sam to be Miyagi-Do or just like against Cobra Kai, and then Johnny doesn't really know it's Sam who Miguel is dating, and he's like no those Lucio kid guys, they're bad news and stuff like that. Is you really kind of see with so many character relationships the difference between the Miyagi-Do beliefs and the Cobra Kai beliefs while they're still like best friends. Of course, that's not the case with Daniel and Johnny because they're former rivals, but I think that's an interesting pattern that they chose to follow with a lot of the characters. I think worked out very, very well. Johnny's character, I really think, is incredible when you consider it from the perspective as this mentor to Miguel, and I will get to Miguel later. I'm kind of going like less to talk about, to more to talk about characters. Excuse me. And I really do like the reforms that he did try to make to Cobra Kai just to make it different. And I really think that that's such an interesting like way he did that. I also like his relationship with Carmen. I think that progressed very nicely. I'm curious to see what they'll do about it in season 4. Okay, sorry for all the eating. I'm really hungry. Okay, so in the future, whenever I need to like eat or for a while, I'll just pause the recording. And by the way, I'm gonna stop this after talking about Cobra Kai because this recording is already 53 minutes as I am recording this. Excuse me. Anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna make this a 2-part video and do like the 3, 2, 1 in part 2. Anyway, there's not much to talk about. With Johnny, you really see that arrogance also, and like how he just kind of wants to defeat Miyagi-Do or whatever, and just kind of like be the champion that he never was. And really, you can clearly see, and I think this is definitely the best thing about Johnny is he truly wants the best for his students. Like, well, that and one other thing, but and this especially shows in his relationship with Miguel. like that mentor relationship, like all the time that he's training him in season 1 and season 3. Less so in season 2. That's more of a general kind of class focus type season. And honestly, the other big thing about Johnny is like the main difference that he makes in his reforms to Cobra Kai is the way that he says that, like, Mercy should be still being a badass but not being a jerk. And I think that, like, the way that he kind of makes that realization early on, but then just kind of comes full circle in accepting it in season 3, is really kind of his profound character arc of the season. 2 down, a heck of a lot more to go. So, moving on to, besides Robbie and maybe Hawk, my absolute favorite character in the whole show is Kreese. Now, I have talked about it many times on this channel before. I'm a villains person. I like villains in movies. It's a very controversial opinion, but I am a very much root for villains type person. And come to think of it, I just realized that I did not put Kreese in that list. Anyway, I'm going to talk about why Kreese is such a damn good villain here. For one, I knew right away as I watched season 2, like, I really like this character. For one, to season 2, the way they develop, like, his old stories and his background of just, like, after doing Cobra Kai, he's just kind of, like, ruined, basically. And he had kind of a shitty life in between them. Or crappy life. Not bad. Excuse my language. But, it really had. It's another example of, like I was talking about earlier, the jaded type character, but it's also very, very different because, like, the entire time while Kreese is, like, teaching alongside Johnny, he secretly has his, like, own ambitions to take over Cobra Kai. And he's always mentioning to the students and suggesting that. And whenever Johnny mentions that, and increases, like, I'm sorry, old habits die hard type deal. But you really see him trying to encourage this behavior in the students and secretly undermine what Johnny has been trying to teach, which I really think is so cleverly, it's so, like, subtly written in that, like, you really wouldn't notice it. I mean, you would notice it, of course, on a surface level, but you wouldn't really notice it, like, how deep Kreese's ambitions actually were. And I really do think that makes him such a good character. And then, of course, in season 3, we have his absolutely incredible flashback scenes that depict his backstory. And those are really, really great scenes just because it really shows, like, where Kreese's no mercy attitude came from. And, like, what happened back then. It just caused him to be the way that he is. And I think that's so interesting, honestly. It makes him such a profound character. And I might be the only person who thinks this in the world ever, but this is a really random side note. But I swear that Martin Kove, I think that's his actor name, Martin Kove, who is the actor that plays Kreese, Like in the original Karate Kid, I swear he looks quite a bit like Harrison Ford. Now some people say I'm completely insane for that, but I swear it's like I think the resemblance is pretty uncanny. Anyway, that was a completely random side note. And 3, 2, 1. And we have hit an hour recording. Woo! Nah, I spent way too long recording these videos. Anyway, yeah, it's for those many reasons that I really do love Kreese as a character. So let me think. Who else do I need to cover? I'm gonna do Miguel, Samantha, Hawk, Robbie, and Dimitri. I think. Yeah, I'm gonna go with those 5. So starting, I think, yeah, I'll start with Dimitri. Dimitri, I think, is another one of my hidden favorite characters because I really am a humongous fan of um, Dimitri's character development throughout the entire show because he goes from being this like very very outspoken person who's like really skinny and can't really defend himself that well and doesn't have many friends to really being a kind of a badass in the way that he practices karate, and he's just kind of a good person in general. I really think that makes him a really good character. Um, Especially with his relationship to Hawk, because they start out as best friends back when Hawk is still known as Eli, and then they kind of form that triumvirate, the awkward people in high school, until like Miguel beats up Kyler and gets like the high school fame or whatever. Um, but just the way that they set, especially in season 2, the way that they set apart the characters, like starting like from these kind of friends to being these enemies, and once again you see that contrast of someone who is in Miyagi Do and someone who's in Cobra Kai. And I'll get to this more when I talk about Hawk, but Hawk thinks that like Miyagi Do is the enemy, and therefore Dimitri is the enemy, which I think is a little bit one note, but it's actually perfect for Hawk's character. And my favorite thing about Dimitri is by far how they improve his confidence, because because especially when it's paid off in the final battle. But there's this scene where Dimitri tries to spar, and he's not the best at it, and like he doesn't really understand the Miyagi rituals. And Daniel and Dimitri's relationship is another relationship that I also really like, because it's a very very good example of a teacher really helping a struggling student, which I really like to see. Um, but just the way that Daniel improves Dimitri's confidence, especially when they're doing I don't remember the Japanese name, but it's the one where they're really cold. He talks about how the cold can improve your speed. It actually improves Dimitri's speed, which I think is utterly awesome. And then it's paid off at in that battle between everybody at the school. And oh wait, actually, when I just remembered, there's a 6th character I'll talk about, and that's Tori. Anyway, back to this. Yeah, I just really like Dimitri's character development and how his confidence improves over the show, and things like that. Okay, sorry for that extremely awkward cut in like 4 seconds of just me eating because I thought I'd pause the recording and then I noticed that I hadn't and it was still going. So, sorry about that. Sorry about those very awkward few seconds where I was just eating. Um, I was eating a bagel. Yeah. Anyway, continuing on with the characters, I noticed I was going to do Hawk next, but actually, I will do Hawk next. I'll do Tori after Hawk. Um, so Hawk is another one of my favorite characters because, again, of his character development. Because he goes from being this really depressed kid who has like this nose problem to being this probably the biggest like example of a complete badass character in the whole show. Though all the characters do get their badass moments, I will admit, but just of the way that they managed to like kind of because he like becomes Hawk or whatever, his alter ego, and he becomes so loyal, not really to either Johnny or Kreese, but just the ideals of Cobra Kai and how they mean no mercy and whatever. And eventually you see this turnaround in, especially in season 3, where he breaks Dimitri's arm just because of peer pressure, and he's definitely an example of like malignant peer pressure, which I think was a very nice like archetype that they addressed with a character. I think that was very cool. And then you have this like turn in season 3 where he's just like he's had enough of it. Like the peer pressure just succumbed to him, and he's tired of hurting Dimitri. He's tired of all of it, and so he just snaps. He just switches sides, and I really, really do love that. I think that's one of the best Hawk moments in the show. Well, again, as I said, he has like the best badass moments in the whole show. Um, Not much more to talk about with Hawk. Eating break. Okay, sorry about that. I swear that was my last bagel. I had 3, and I'm down and done. So, on to Tori's character. I think Tori is really interesting because she's kind of like the new kid at first, but she's also an example of another character that really succumbs to peer pressure. And it's really just to me it's kind of sad to see like her familial problems because she has to like work 2 jobs. Though I do think that the amount of support that Kreese gives only shows how it is to further his own motivations, because he needs his students at their full strength, and like he clearly knows that Tori is not at her full strength when she has to take care of her mother like that. I also really like Tori's relationship with Miguel because she's by far like I would say Hawk, but the thing about Hawk is he mostly just sticks to the ideals of Cobra Kai, whereas if you're talking about Tori, like nothing fits the attitude that Kreese's Cobra Kai has. I feel like more than Tori does, and excuse me, um, um, because of that fact, it makes her definitely the most, I'll say, ruthless of all the students in like just the sheer brutality of what she does is really big. honestly. I can't think much more to talk about with Tori, to be honest, but I really do like her character as well. The show has so many good characters. Next up, I'll talk about Sam. So, Sam is really interesting because at first they really tackle this kind of archetype, which is definitely one of my favorite things about season one, or at least the first part of season one, because for that part they talk about like how Sam was like accepted into this group of popular girls and how she dresses like them and stuff like that, and she succumbs to peer pressure to do what they do, and like um talk about what they talk about, and not be like with the nerdy friend that she's known for a long time or whatever. And and it also tackles like this thing of cyberbullying with that against Eli, who's not known as Hawk at this point in the first season, which I really think is extremely profound because just because of the way that like I just love that they chose to use that character archetype to start Sam's character. I say start because her character gets a lot deeper after that. She also dates the heck out of people because she dates Kyler, then Miguel, and then Robbie, and then Miguel again. So she dates a lot of people. I do feel like that kind of undermines her character a little bit. Kind of like in the Queen's Gambit when I said like Beth slept with a lot of people, which you would know if you watched that review. But anyway, I need to stop plugging my videos so much. Sam's character, like then she started dating Miguel, and then that introduces, as I talked about previously, the kind of contrast relationship that they use a lot, but it really doesn't get old to me because it's just such a well made like template per se, and I really do like that template of relationship. And eventually, after that happens, you start training in Miyagi-Do again, which is a nice kind of carryover to season 2 because you see this different attitude of her while she's like hanging out and eventually dating Robbie, and how she's like how like her mindset shifts because she's still going to school, and then in season 3, which is perhaps her best bit of character, is how like the one fight scene she's just like, well, for one part of it she just like she's not trying to do karate, but she just wants to help her friends and she wants revenge against Cobra Kai and whatever. And you really do love seeing, or I love seeing, and especially because during that one fight scene, like the arcade or whatever it is, then you see her kind of just freeze up and then just go and hide because she's so scared of Tori. And that's actually another critical detail I forgot to bring up is her relationship with Tori. Oh my god, it's so good. Because basically what happens is you go to a party, like, and Miguel wants Sam back, and like just go with your gut, and then kiss Tori, and then Miguel and Tori start dating, and then like one day at the party, like Sam just or on impulse she and Miguel kiss, even though they hadn't seen each other in like ages or whatever. And that makes Tori like furious. So she like just and so she just kind of beats the crap out of her, and she has to get stitches and whatever. And this is key in Sam's character because it makes Sam like dreadfully afraid of Tori, which has this really awesome like dream sequence where like he's at the Miyagi-Do like training place, and then like Tori's there, and it's all just a dream, and then like she freezes up in the fight because she's so scared of Tori, while Hawk breaks Dimitri's arm because she couldn't help because she's so scared to face Tori again. And she eventually has to go with her dad, and I think that really that scene on the lake just really kind of overall is the highlight of Sam and Daniel's relationship as father-daughter, because you really see Daniel trying to reach out not as a karate teacher, but an actual father to his daughter. And I think that that's some really, really profound stuff. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I need to move on to different characters. But the next character that we're going to talk about is Robbie. Now, Robbie has possibly some of the most character development throughout the whole show. Because he starts out as this like bad guy who like has a trashy mom who cares about him a lot, but like is barely doing anything to raise him, but he still resents his dad for like leaving them behind to fend for themselves and whatever. And it causes it at first it starts him to be not that likable because he's just kind of like this criminal that goes along with these thug friends, which by the way I hate those characters. Like I know they were supposed to be annoying, but I think they made them too annoying. Anyway, you see that, and then he starts working at LaRusso Auto to kind of like get back at his dad or whatever. And while he's there, like he gets trained by Daniel, and that's when you start to see their relationship just absolutely just up here in amazingness of show quality, because you really see how much Daniel cares about training Robbie the right way. And I just love seeing that dynamic, honestly, between the two of them, and how it's eventually, and how like he coaches him through the tournament, and it's eventually led up to like ultimate betrayal in like season 3, because like it's like the end of season 2 just runs away because he's scared. And at the same time, in season 2, and this is another depth to Johnny's character that I don't know if I mentioned or not, but he really starts this turnaround arc where he starts really caring about Robbie, and he really tries to do all he can for Robbie. And another really interesting thing about Kreese is that Kreese always wanted Robbie to take Cobra Kai. He thought that was like his destiny or whatever, but Johnny was always like, no, none of that. I won't be having that for my own son, and at least under you. And what's really, really interesting is that after like basically being betrayed essentially by both Daniel and Johnny, he just kind of goes in this state of like dejectedness where he's like, I don't want anything to do with either of you. You both wronged me. And he ends up finding mentorship in Kreese, which I think is one of the best writing moves in the whole series, because it's like the person that Robbie was least likely to go to that he ended up finding mentorship with after his father and his other former mentor betrayed him. And his character is really, really profound, and I love it. And finally, Miguel. I like Miguel, but he's not one of my favorites, just because of different reasons, but I still really, really like Miguel, don't get me wrong. I love the relationship between him and Johnny. That is obviously that mentor-student relationship is obviously the best bit about Miguel's character, but along with, he goes through a lot of character development from being this peaceful person who got bullied a lot, to becoming too violent, to like losing his breaking his spine, and like losing faith in karate and have to relearn to walk. And I would definitely say one of the best things about the beginning of season 3 is the way that those relationships kind of that relationship kind of it is expanded, because and I mentioned this more with Johnny's character, but like in season 2, it's more of a class mindset. Obviously, you still have great Johnny Miguel moments, but it's not really one-on-one. It's them and like all the students in the class, which I think was a nice distinction between the seasons. I'm very glad that they did that. And just because of that, it makes the arc to recover his legs that much deeper. And he eventually starts like going overboard, which is what Kreese does not want, and he makes that clear, which I think is really interesting. But the thing that I really like about Miguel, and I love that the writers made a difference between, is that like characters like Hawk or Tori, they kind of, well, aside from the fact that they felt like Johnny had betrayed them or whatever, they really stuck to Cobra Kai no matter who was teaching it, really. Miguel always tried to follow Johnny's example, and I think that's really admirable, because even he was talking when Johnny, like before he knew he wanted to make reforms to Cobra Kai in season 2, then he was like, do it the exact same way, and like no mercy and whatever, and Miguel's like no mercy, and he's like, he sees that, and he sees the worst version of himself, which I think is another depth of layer of the Johnny's character I didn't talk about, but like when he sees Miguel doing that, he sees the worst version of himself, but also the best version of himself when like he's training Miguel, which I think is also really interesting for the reasons that mentor relationship between him and Miguel. But I think that really influences the way that Johnny makes a decision to change. But through all of that, like through Johnny's many mishaps and like disbeliefs and whatever, he stayed true to Johnny. Like he always followed Johnny's Eagle Fang karate and even or Cobra Kai, and then even Eagle Fang eventually. And I just really like that about Miguel's character, and just overall, The character relationships in this show and the characters are so profound. The character relationships are so in depth, and just the whole dang show is so goddamn good. Yeah. I'm gonna stop there. I know I still have 3 more TV shows to go, but um, as I'm looking at this recording time, it is like an hour and 25 minutes that I've recorded this one video. So for that reason, I'll be splitting this into a part 2. If you watched all the way through this insanely long video, you have my appreciation. Uh, Thanks for watching, and bye-bye. Have a great night.